Syntax is probably one of the most difficult things to learn as a new programmer. Syntax is the rules of the language. All right, much like in the English language, you capitalize somebody's name, right? Well, just like that rule for the English language, there are rules for programming language, and there are in orders that things must happen. So in Mel, punctuation is extremely important, which I'll show you in just a second, as well as the order in which you type things. So I have sphere here written out, all lowercase, okay, and I hit enter, and it's a NURBS sphere. Okay, well, what if I want to make a polysphere, right? I'll just type in polysphere, and it says, oh, I don't know what that is. I cannot find that procedure. Never heard of a polysphere. Yet I have polysphere right here, right? I can make them all day long. Why not? Well, in certain commands, and this is what's tricky about the Mel languages, it's pretty consistent but not 100%. The second word, first letter, has to be capitalized. Okay, so let's try this. And there we go. It made a polygon sphere, right? Which it named p-sphere. So there are some of these little inconsistencies that you're going to have to get used to as a programmer, and all you have to do is start using this. Now, you're probably going to need help. So if you fire open the Mel Help Center, right? Wait, let me squeeze this down here. Way down here at the bottom. Under Developer Resources, you will see the Mel Commands Help System. And this is all of the commands that are available to you. So if you're not for sure, something like find keyframe, if keyframe is one word or two words, because it depends, then you could check here, like this is F check. Well, the C in check is not capitalized. So you're going to have to be aware of some of these. And it takes just a second to just leave this open and check it. And you can also start to search by things too. So something like polycube, right? It's poly, capital C, cube. And there we go. We get a polygon cube. All right. What about other syntax? Well, let's say we want to talk about taking a command and changing it. So let me make a polycube again. All right, there it is. And I want to change the attribute. Let's say I want to change the rotate Y of this object. Okay. So what we'll do, actually rotate Z so we can actually see it. We'll go in and we'll say set adder, okay, set the attribute, and now you have to give it the object name. So this is pcube1. How do I know that name? It gave it to me right here. Right? That's what it named it. And if I open my channel box, let me get that. You can see it's also named here. Let me just shrink this in a little bit. Okay, so pcube is what it's named. So set adder pcube1 dot. Now the dot tells the system, all right, I'm done with the attribute or the node that I want to work with. Now I want to work with an attribute. All right, so you could type out rotate Z, okay, and we'll set this to 45. Now, you always end your commands, your line of command, with a semicolon. That tells the system, I'm done with this code, we're moving on to the next one. Okay, and I'm going to highlight this so I don't have to keep typing it. There it is. Now you can see it rotated at 45 degrees. Well, why do we need this semicolon here? Well, the syntax for this system works very, very easily in that I can use all the white space I want between these elements, and that is going to work just as well. Because when it runs the code, it removes all this extra white space and then just runs it. Okay? So be aware of that you have a lot of white space that you could use in your programming because it's only going to make your program easier to read. You also have the ability to use shortcuts. So instead of rotate Z, we could just put in RZ. Again, be aware of the syntax. In this instance, Z is not capitalized. Okay, so we'll execute that, and let me just move this. There you can see it. Reset that back to 45. All right, that's set adder. Now, let's say we don't want to set the attribute. We just want to rotate this thing. Rotate 45. Guess what's going to happen? It's going to give us an error. Now, it didn't give us an error. It defaulted to X. Let's see if we do this. Let's say move. And we'll say move 2. Okay, so it's defaulting to X. Why is that? Well, we only gave it one number. So what if we did 2, 1, and 1? There it is, 2, 1, and 1. Okay, so we were thinking when we rotated that initially in 45 degrees Z, I typed in rotate 45, and it rotated X. So in a way it did give an error. It did the wrong thing. Well, I never told it what I wanted it to do. If I wanted it to rotate in Z, I would need to say rotate 0, 0, 45. Okay, let's test that. And there we go. Rotated 0, 0, and 45 in Z. Very, very important to understand the syntax of this language. Now, as we go along, you're going to find more and more and more about the syntax because we're going to use it. And that's one of the best ways is to follow along with me, put this on your second monitor or minimize it as we go along, and practice with me. Okay, so if you want, go ahead and take a minute, stop this lesson, and practice the rotate, the moves, and the set adder for a polycube.